پہچان سکو گے، دیکھ کر مجھ کو کہو گے کیا میری زہرا یہی ہے، تیری پہ مصیبت کی گری ہے، ہائے بابا تیری زہرا یہ اذیت یہ خاموشی نہیں دیکھی جاتی، مجھ سے تنہائی علی کی نہیں دیکھی جاتی، تیرا پیغام سنانے حق ولایت کا بتانے زہرا گھر گھر میں گئی ہے، تیری زہرا کی گری ہے، ہائے بابا تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گری ہے، کیسے دروازہ ہٹاؤں، کیسے محسن کو بچاؤں، سانس سینے میں رکی ہے، تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گری ہے، ہائے بابا تیری زہرا پہ مصیبت کی گری ہے، محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، الملقب طه وياسين، سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، صل على محمد. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد. I pay my condolences to our 12th Imam and all those who are present here on this great night, which is the Wafaat or the Shahadat of Rasulullah, and with that is the Shahadat of our second Imam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Since there had been already majlis and the commemoration for Imam Hassan alayhi salam earlier, so tonight, inshallah, we'll be speaking about our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Allah sallam. Now, there are two views and two opinions about whether it was a wafat or a shahadat. I will not go much deep into that, but just mentioning, so we know that there are two opinions and two views, that there are a group of people, they will say that it was a natural death of our beloved Prophet, and the other view is that was the shahadat, and they give their own proofs from the hadith and riwayat. So one of that is because Rasulullah had a great maqam and status. So a person who is insan kamil will be getting the great reward of the shahadat as well. There are so many ahadith. One of the hadiths from Rasulullah is that he says, Ya Ali, ma araf Allahu illa ana wa ant. Who is addressing Rasulullah is addressing Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he's saying, Ya Ali, nobody understood, nobody came to know and recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except you and me. And then he carries on, our Rasulullah, he says, وَمَا عَرَفَنِي إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَأَنْتَ. And nobody understood me, nobody recognized me, nobody came to know about me except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you. And the last sentence he says, وَمَا عَرَفَكَ اللَّهُ وَمَا عَرَفَكَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَأَنَا. And nobody recognized you except Allah and me. So we see these great personalities. In one of the riwayat, it is said that at the time of our sixth Imam, whenever he used to listen the name of Muhammad, he used to bow down so much that his face used to get closer to the ground. One of the companions of Rasulullah, his name is Abu Harun. So this Abu Harun comes to our sixth Imam, and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, Abu Harun, where have you been? You were not seen for these many days. What's the reason? Where have you been? He said, Imam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed me with a boy, with a child. Now, after hearing this, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam asked, okay, what have you named him? Abu Harun said, I have named him Muhammad. By listening this, our sixth Imam repeatedly said, Muhammad, Muhammad, and then with due to respect, he used to lower his face. Look at the Imams as well, they would have great respect for our Prophet who has been given the respect by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is the other riwayat which says, Burika li bayti fihi Muhammad. وَمَجْلِسِ فِيهِ مُحَمَّدْ وَرِفْقَةٍ فِيهَا مُحَمَّدْ. That blessed is that house where Muhammad is in it. Now the name, if we name a Muhammad, if we name our child, so that has its own barakat. وَمَجْلِسٍ فِيهِ مُحَمَّدْ. The gathering that includes Muhammad and the group that has Muhammad amongst them. But now, let's not take this as an advantage or granted. We will say, that, okay, my name is Muhammad, I can do anything. No. The names would have their own effects, but what our Rasul and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt wants from us is our actions. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa One of the person comes to Imam Ali alayhi salam and he asks that, Mola, please count the characteristics of Rasulullah. By hearing this, Imam said, can you count the blessings and the ni'mat, blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, no. In ta'uddu ni'matin, the verse it says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةٍ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا, that even if you want to count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you won't be able to count. So this person says, I can't count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam Ali alayhi salam replied, the Imam said, when you cannot count the blessings of this world, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said in the Holy Quran, that the blessings, mata'u dunya qaleel, when these are qaleel, if you cannot count the blessings of this world, how can you count the characteristics of Rasulullah, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, إِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ? That Prophet, Rasul, you possess a great character. You have a great character and akhlaq. Now, just giving an example, Prophet Muhammad, he was a person who took the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and transmitted, so he gave to people like us. Just in order to get closer to the explanation I want to explain is, we can see a child who is born. Can we feed him with the food and all those, whatever we have, tandoori, chicken or different things? No, nobody would say. Even a Muslim or a non-Muslim, they would say that no. Because he does not have the capacity to take that food or the solid thing. So you can't feed that child with that food. Rather, it would be just fed by the mother. On the other hand, what happens is the mother, she had to take the healthy food so she can take and then transmit and give it to the child. Why? Because there is no capacity of the child. Now, I just gave this example so we can get closer to the reality. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to give the revelation and wahi to us so we can understand, people did not have the capacity to take that directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah sent a Rasul so that can be transmitted. Another example, we get the electricity. Do we get it directly? No, there would be transformers in between so they can give you according to the voltage you are given. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has selected these personalities so they can give what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. Now, in order to understand the personality of Rasulullah, the verse I started with, that was Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 128, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the sifat and the characteristics of our Rasul. Before I get into the verse, there is one of the person, his name is Michael Hart. He wrote a book in 1978, and the book he named is The 100, the most influential persons in history. He's not a Muslim. So he brings the scientists like Newton, Einstein, and different people in the list of those 100. Now, you know, he selects the first person in the list of that 100. He says it is Prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And he writes, he says, this may surprise some of the people and reader, that why I have selected him. And then he mentions the reason. He says that the reason I have selected Muhammad as the first in this list of 100 is because he was the most and the best person who had been successful on both ends, the religious end and in the secular end. We do not need these things from the non-Muslims. Why? Because the Quran is enough. But why I'm mentioning this is because we see when the people, they take their vision and they take the hasad out and they see the reality, they would see that, okay, this is the person. And he mentions the other reasons as well. So we understand that a person, now he mentions that he was successful on religious basis and in the secular life as well. So we understand that a person, if we call him a successful person, is the successful person not in the worldly affairs. That person, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has to be a person who is successful in the ukhrawi affairs as well, in the religious affairs as well. Now, in the same book, he brings Prophet Isa, although Michael Hart, apparently he's a Christian, he brings Prophet Isa as the third person, but he brings Prophet Muhammad. Now, we do not need these from these people. Why? Because we have the great personalities, the A'imma, who have mentioned about the akhlaq of Rasulullah. And if we go up, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who had mentioned in this verse. So the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that certainly I have sent you an apostle. Min rasulan min anfusikum, that I have sent a Rasul from yourselves. Azizun alayhi ma'anittum. And then he is grievous, for him is your distress. When you are in pain, when you are in distress, this is grievous for Rasulullah. Harisun alaykum, he has a deep concern for you. I'll be opening these qualities one by one. Bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim. And with the mu'minin, he is the most kind and merciful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the first one, we find in Khutbatul Qasi'ah, sermon, I think it's 192, where Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions the creation. So the gist, I'm giving the gist, where Imam says that Allah would have created Prophet Adam. The words are mine, but the gist is from the khutbah, from the sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have created a Rasul or a Prophet who would be very strange when we compare to the human beings. Allah could have done. Allah could have given Prophet Adam or the Rasul the fragrance or something that people would understand when they see Rasul, and when they would come into contact, they would see that, okay, this personality is something other than us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not do that. One of the reasons, because if Allah had selected a prophet to be amongst the malaika, people would have said, Allah, we wanted a guider, we wanted a mentor so we can see and we can apply in our lives. But since that prophet is amongst the malaika, so he's not amongst the human race, he's not from the humankind. Since he's not human, so that means we can't accept him, we can't take him as an ideal. But no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him amongst the group of the people, so that with the feelings, like we get thirsty, we get hungry, so these things are there in the prophets as well. But they have reached the kamal, so they would not take these things, and these things would never overwhelm their soul and the religious aspect. Please, salawat ala Muhammad wa. When Prophet's son died, Ibrahim, at a very young age, it is mentioned in history that there was a solar eclipse. And people said, oh, this is solar eclipse is because of the death of the son of Rasulullah. They came to him, they said, Rasulullah said, no. If there was someone who had to collect and attach the people in the wrong way, that person would have said, yeah, this is the reason. But Rasulullah said, no. Rasulullah said, no, this solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, these are the ayat, these are the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not because of the death of my son. You just have to go and recite Salatul Ayat. So Rasulullah never took these opportunities as an advantage or as a disadvantage, where he can pull the people towards himself with the wrong intention. The second quality, which is mentioned in the other verses as well, Surah Al Imran, is بَعْثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's selecting the prophet, so it is amongst the people and from inside the people itself, like a knowledgeable person or a very good person, he would not try. I'm just giving an example. A person who sees himself to be a very rich person, or a person who sees himself to be a very knowledgeable person, he would not come in contact with others. No. Rasulullah was amongst this characteristic that it mentioned that Rasulullah was amongst themselves and from themselves. Now, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to sit in the mosque, it is mentioned that the new person who was sitting inside the because this was هون عليك, take it easy. لست بملك, that I'm not an angel, I'm not a king. He said, I'm not a king, take it easy. The other place it is mentioned Salman Farsi, because he used to live in that Persian state. So he had kind of kings at that time. What would the people do? People would go in front of the king and they would bow down. They would give them respect and they would just bow down, or sometimes they would go and kiss the feet of the kings or different things. So it is mentioned, this riwayat, I think it is from Abu Dhar, he says that Bilal was there and Salman Farsi. So when Salman comes and sees Rasulullah, he bows down and he tries to kiss the feet of Rasulullah. But immediately Rasulullah takes him, raises him up, and he says, no, do not do this with me, what the other people are doing with their things. So this was the akhlaq of Rasulullah. The other thing, there is a hadith from our Rasulullah. He says that I will not leave 5 things until I die. خمس لا أدعوهن حتى الممات. The first, الآكل على الحضيض حديث مع العبيد, that eating with the lower class. Sometimes what would happen that I would feel, okay, I'm so knowledgeable, let's say I have a mama, or let's say I'm very rich, I should not be sitting with other people. No. This is, if you have to look at Rasulullah showed himself to be of course, his status, his soul and ruh was very high. Nobody can compare that. But his akhlaq was that he would sit with the people and eat. The second thing, he says, وَرُكُوبِ الْحِمَارَ مُؤَكَّفًا, riding a donkey with a saddle. Now, why donkey? Because at that time there were horses as well. But donkey was compared to be a lower class. So he said, I will be using that, but without the saddles. Mu'akkafan is something without the decorations. Why people used to get, let's say they would get the horse or different things, and then they would have decorated so they can have this great, the horse, and they can run and they can go to different places. But Rasul said, no, I just want to live a simple life. Now here I don't mean that people go outside and then they say Maulana said that you don't have to go in your cars. No, please go, when you people are going back, make sure we are going back in our own cars. Yeah, but the thing is we have to have that simplicity in our lives. So the third thing, he says, milking a goat with my own hands. Number 4 was wearing a wool. And the last thing he mentions is that greeting children. They were, when the captives were taken after the battle. So what Rasulullah had said, Rasulullah said, okay, a Jewish person, when there was a fight with the mushrikeen, so Rasulullah had made a rule that, okay, if a person from the other side comes, when he's taken as a captive, when he teaches 10 of the Muslims how to read and write, we would free him. So this was the rule by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Please recite salawat, and I would request the brothers to come forward, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Please. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allah. So there was this person, it is mentioned that he was a Jewish, he was Yahudi. He used to come and teach the Muslims. Rasulullah came and saw that this person has not come for a few days. What is the reason? It was told that he is ill. He's not feeling good. So Rasulullah said, okay, let's go to his house. So Rasulullah went to the house of this Jewish person, and he saw that he is on his deathbed. He is in the halatul ihtidar. He's about to die. So that person, he used to get fainted, and then he used to get the consciousness, and he used to see the Rasulullah. So the first time Rasulullah told him, he said, see, you have helped me. You have helped the Muslims. Now I have come here to help you as well. Why? Because Rasulullah wanted to take every person out of that darkness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made him as a merciful, that he would not like anybody to see in that darkness and in that dhulumat, which is going astray. So he said, you have done good to us. Now I have come here to do good to you. Become a Muslim, convert. He was listening and then again he fainted. Rasulullah, he waited until this person comes into his consciousness. So this person wakes up again and sees Rasulullah, and then it is mentioned his parents or his father was sitting next to him, and he sees towards his parents or his father. Why? Because parents would feel that, okay, the person, because he was brought up as a Jewish, now this person is becoming Muslim. So the father or the parents, they said, don't worry, if you have to become a Muslim, become a Muslim. And that was the time when he recited the Shahadatain, and then later he passed away. So look, Rasulullah, even if a person is on a deathbed, Rasulullah will not want that person to go to Jahannam. Now we are talking about a person who has lived his life as a non-Muslim. But we, as a Muslim, although full of sins, but if we are a Muslim, so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so we can get the special mercy. So our Rasulullah, who is the father of the ummah, he will never want his ummah to go astray. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. The other quality, Azizun alayhi ma'anittum, grievous to him is your distress. That when a person from the ummah of Rasulullah is in distress, is in problems, Rasulullah does not feel good. Rasulullah feels bad for the people. Why? Because he wants everybody to get guided. It is mentioned that in the beginning, mentioned in one of the tafsir by Alama Tabrasi, if not mistaken, he mentions that it was the beginning of the tabligh when the Prophet wanted everybody to come to the righteous path. And then at that time, Rasulullah used to think that these people, some of them, they are not guided. And then he used to pray a lot, and then sometimes he used to sleep very, very less at nights, standing in prayers in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? He used to think that maybe there is something wrong, that I am not delivering, that these people are not coming. You know what Allah said? Allah showed the sympathy. Surah Taha. Taha, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. That Taha, referring to Prophet. So Allah says, Taha, Ya Rasul, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. We have not sent down this Qur'an for the zahma or trouble. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries to show his sympathy that it is not your mistake. Even though you are trying your best, but the people, they are not coming to the right track. The other hadith we find, it is said, Ana wa aliyun abawa hadhihi al-ummah. There was a person who comes to our 8th Imam and he asks that how Rasulullah and Imam Ali alayhi salam are the father. He asked one of the questions. Now let me mention this one. He says that how Rasulullah is Abul Qasim. So Imam Rada alayhi salam, he says, because Rasul had a child, his name was Qasim, so that's why his kunya he's known as Abul Qasim. So this person, he was smart. He said, Mola, if you feel that, if you can tell me something more about it. And then Imam Rada continued and said, he said, don't you know that Ali is Qasimul Jannati wan Nar? That he will be, the separation of the Jannat and the Jahannam will be depending on the wilayat, a person who accepts the wilayat. So that is the reason that Imam Ali alayhi salam and Rasulullah are known as Ana wa Aliyun abawa hadhi al-ummah. So they have that grief for us. It is us who have to get closer to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So these are some of the characteristics from the Quran where this is mentioned. But again, we have to have, now the verse which says Harisun alaykum, the verse Haris, when we take the words Haris, in the normal life, people would take it as greedy from Hirs, isn't it? Now I'll mention one of the stories here. At the time of Harun, this caliph, he was not a good caliph, we know that. He was at the time of Imam Qadim alayhi salam. And so he says that, he asks his people that get me a person who had seen Rasulullah himself. They said, It's been almost a century. It's almost been 100 years. Now we cannot find a person who has seen who had seen Rasulullah himself. He says, no, go and find it. So there were some of the people, they went and tried to find, they found one of the persons. So they brought that person in front of Harun, and Harun said, okay, tell me one hadith what you have heard from Rasulullah. So he says, Yashibu ibn Adam, Yashabu, and the translation is that when the age goes up, when a person grows old, the hairs and the long hopes grow. He became very happy. Harun said, okay, thank you very much. You have told me this hadith from, you have seen Rasulullah yourself. And he gave him, while this person, the old man was leaving, so Harun gives him a bag of gold coins. So while this person is leaving, he looks back to Harun and he says, Harun, is this just for once that you are giving me the gold coins, or every month will I be getting it? By listening this, Harun says, Sadaqa Rasulullah, that Rasulullah said the correct. So the hairs for the dunya is not the correct one. But harisun alaykum, that our Prophet, he is concerned about the hidayat. He wants everybody to be guided so everybody can come on the right track. And the last thing, the fourth quality, harisun alaykum, and the fifth one is bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although Prophet is merciful to everybody, but those who are mu'mineen, there would be a special mercy from Prophet's side. Now, I wanted to mention some of the other things, but looking at the time and the masayib and there's the other majlis as well. So one of the things we can learn here, that Rasulullah took 23 years to get that revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then give it to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 30, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ, although it shows that Rasul said, but if you go in the tafsir, it is said that Rasulullah will say on the day of Qiyamah that the people had left the Quran and had taken the Quran as a forsaken thing. If we are Shias, we should be close to the Quran. Alhamdulillah, we are close to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, but to the Quran as well. It should not be left as mahjura. Why? Because on the day of judgment, if Rasul, as mentioned, he will be complaining. So who is the person who is complaining? Rasulullah. Who is he addressing to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who is he complaining about? The people. Now when I see the community here, alhamdulillah, it was very good being here. It was an honor. And when we see the community of like 9,000, 10,000 people, we should be very good in Quran. We should have very good qaris in the Quran. We should have hufaz and hafidh al-Quran as well. So it is a responsibility of the parents as well. Let's try and work hard. Alhamdulillah, there are many people, those who are already working hard. But let's work harder so we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, but we can provide and we can give and show that product of hufaz, those who have memorized the Holy Quran, those who are the good reciters of the Holy Quran. Why? Because inni tarikun fikum athqalain kitabullahi itrati. He said, Rasulullah said that I'm leaving behind me two weighty things, and they will not separate until they meet Rasulullah on Hawd al-Kawthar. So let's make this opportunity. Alhamdulillah, the community, and you have so many madrasas and so many programs. Even other than that, responsibility as parents is that we can try to help our children. Because if the parents buck up, if the parents support the children, they can really work and get better in that. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa Sallallahu alayka ya Rasul Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya Nabi Allah. I'll just recite the first of the dua tawassul. Ya Abul Qasim ya Rasul Allah. Ya Imam ar-Rahman, يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا all together يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند Allah. It has been mentioned that Rasulullah said, ما أوذي نبي مثل ما أوذيت, that none of the Nabi have been harmed like how I was harmed. Now, I don't know, these are the statements which Rasulullah said in his life. I don't know, maybe he said this one looking at Karbala or looking at what will be happening later on. But what we know for sure is that he had been harmed. For all those years that he strived and struggled so he can pass and he can guide the humanity, people had been in the way of Rasulullah. It is mentioned, it is the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is leaving. He is on his deathbed. He closes his eyes, and it is mentioned that one time when he opened his eyes, he saw Bibi Zahra salamullah alayha on his chest. And Bibi is crying. And it is mentioned the tears of Bibi fell on the shirt and the clothes of Rasulullah. By seeing this, Rasulullah brought Bibi Zahra closer to himself. And he said something in her ears. In history we find it is mentioned that Bibi Zahra was crying. Why? Now, those people, those who have daughters, you can imagine. Or those who are the daughters, they can imagine when your father is going, how difficult is that? Let alone it be the father of Bibi Zahra salamullah alayha. Now, Rasulullah tells something in the ears of Bibi Zahra. While she was crying, she smiled. When it was asked from her that what is the reason that you smile, she says, when I was called and when Rasulullah said something in my ears, people asked that what was the thing Rasulullah said that you smiled? She said, Rasulullah said that you will be the first person to join me. Rasulullah, you are leaving. Rasulullah, you know what will be happening after a few days after your demise? There will be people coming on the door, and Bibi Zahra will be in between the door and the wall, and the Muhsin will be martyred. Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, indeed you said that they have harmed you. They did not live just in your life, rather they started more. All of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam were harmed by the people. Ya Rasulullah, it is the shahadat of Imam Hassan alayhi salam as well. It is mentioned, I'll just mention one sentence about Imam Hassan. It is said that they wanted to bring, because we know that Rasulullah's funeral was openly done. Imam Ali alayhi salam's funeral and Bibi Zahra's, it was not open like in public. But amongst the Panjitan, it was one of the funerals that the first funeral was Imam Hassan alayhi salam, which was openly done. But Ya Rasulullah, they were trying to bring the body of Imam Hassan alayhi salam next to you so they can bury you next to you. But there were arrows on the body of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Ya Rasulullah, there were so many problems after you left. What should we say The people that did not leave your ummah, these so-called your ummah, they did not live in the plains of Karbala. The bodies were there, Ya Rasulullah, there were people to bury you, but let's go to Karbala. There was no one to bury, and the bodies in the plains of Karbala were left for few days. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.
فاطمہ روتے ہیں مشکل کشا جبریل کا ہے سر کھلا آتا ہے تابوت یہ فوج ملک ساتھ ہے سر کھلے جبریل ہے ہو گیا محشر بپا آتا ہے تابوت یہ کرتے ہیں حسنین بکا دیتے ہیں رو رو صدا جاتے ہیں نانا کہا آتا ہے تابوت یہ سایہ نبی کا اٹھا کرتی ہے امت بکا ہائے رسول خدا آتا ہے تابوت یہ کہتے ہیں اہل وطن ہائے رسول زمن چل بسے سوئے جنا آتا ہے تابوت یہ ختم رسولان کا آتا ہے تابوت یہ دین کے سلطان کا آتا ہے تابوت یہ حضرت نبی جہاں سے گیا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی جہاں سے گیا وا مصیبتا سر آج فاطمہ کا کھلا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی جہاں سے گیا سی بتا حضرت نبی جہاں سے گیا وا مصیبتا سر آج فاطمہ کا کھلا تا یارو قیامت آج پڑی ہے جہان میں یارو قیامت آج پڑی ہے جہان میں پیٹھے کھڑے ہے شیر خدا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی گیا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی وا مصیبتا سر آج فاتح مصیبتا کہتا ہے جبرائیل بدرگاہ کبریا کہتا ہے جبرائیل بدرگاہ کبریا تیرا حبیب جگ سے گیا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی جہاں سے وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی وا مصیبتا سراج فاتح مصیبتا حسنین دونوں ایک ادھر اور ایک ادھر حسنین دونوں ایک ادھر اور ایک ادھر نوچے ہے زلف کر کے بکا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی جہاں وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی سے گیا وا مصیبتا سر آج وا مصیبتا کہتی ہے فاطمہ کہ ہوئی میں یتیم آج کہتی ہے فاطمہ کہ ہوئی میں یتیم آج سر پر میرا پدر نہ رہا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی سے گیا وا مصیبتا حضرت مصیبتا سر آج فاتح مصیبتا یارو قیامت آج پڑی ہے جہان میں یارو قیامت آج پڑی ہے جہان میں پیٹھے کھڑے ہے شیر خدا وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی سے گئے وا مصیبتا حضرت نبی وا مصیبتا سر آج فاطمہ کا کھلا وا مصیبتا
عرض بکی اے غم کی زمیں وہ حال تباہ وہ غم کی گھڑی ویرا پرا ہے تربت زہرا زہرا او زہرا ہرا چشم محمد فاطمہ زہرا زہرا ہرا یہ شب ہے غریب شب غمگین روتے ہیں علی مجتبی و نبی کرب و بلا میں تجھ پہ او زہرا زہرا ما زہرا جان محمد فاطمہ زہرا ہرا بنت محمد فاطمہ زہرا زہرا ہرا نہ بھولیں گے ہم وہ ظلم و ستم اے بنت رسول جناب بطول در کا گرانا تجھ پہ او زہرا تیما زہرا در کا گرانا تجھ پہ او زہرا زہرا کس کس کو سنبھالیں گی مادر بطول طرف ہی رہا ہے شبیہ ہے رسول ویرا پرا ہے تربت زہرا زہرا فاطمہ زہرا جان محمد فاطمہ زہرا فاطمہ زہرا قلب محمد فاطمہ زہرا ہے رسول خدا شافی روز جزا، ہے رسول جزا، ہے رسول خدا شافی روز جزا، جزا کہتی ہے فاطمہ بابا رسول خدا، ہے رسول خدا، جزا حسین شہید کربلا وویلا، الا عباس علم دارم چی شد وویلا، الا یوم الحشر یشفع لکم وویلا، ویلا و حسرتا کے ماہ محرم گزر گیا، اور چیلو میں امام دو عالم گزر گیا، تعرش نوحائے بنی آدم گزر گیا، ماتم رہا پہ موسم ماتم گزر گیا، ایک دن اسی طرح سے یہ دنیا تمام ہے، برشاہ کربلا کی ازادہ تمام ہے، رسوائی و ملال و مرض سے گناہ سے سب کو بچا لے تجھ کو 72 کا واسطہ، ساما شتاب کر دے میرے دل کے چین کا، پروردگار واسطہ مولا حسین کا، حل کیجئے مشکل میری اب دیر ستم ہے، عباس علی تم کو سکینہ کی قسم ہے، دنیا نہ ہوگی مگر اسلام رہے گا، دنیا نہ ہوگی مگر اسلام رہے گا، شبیر بہل حال تیرا نام رہے گا۔ سورۃ الفاتحہ۔ السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم یا فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدۃ النساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا حسن المجتبی، السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ السلام علیکم یا مولا ابن مولا، السلام علیکم یا غریب الغربا المعین الضعفاء والفقراء سلطان ابو الحسن علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا، السلام علیکم اختک فاطمۃ المعصومہ ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ السلام علیکم صاحب العصر والزمان سیدی الامان 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 من فتنة الزمان، السلام علیکم شریک القرآن قابت الایمان امامنا و امام الانس والجان، اجر اللہ لک ما وعدک من النصر وظہور الامر، السلام علیکم یا شہداء کربلا جمیعا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔